Welcome back, everyone, to Peach's Little Podcast. We are here for episode 3, and we are talking about knockoff. I've got my co-host T-Row with me.
Hello everyone, it's T Price667 and I am back to talk more about Little Cup. And we are joined by a special guest. You may remember him from last week's episode. This week he decided to bring him back. We have OG Albina.
That's me. Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to talk more Little Cup, just like last time.
Woo! Woo! Um, so the main thing is with knockoff. Obviously, knockoff is very important in your typical like OU settings, but knockoff is even more important in Little Cup. It is. I don't think there's competition. I think it is just the best Little Cup move. I don't think there's much else in competition for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it mostly comes down to just how polarizing items are. And I'm sure, like, you guys will probably eventually do another episode of this later. It's probably going to be a doozy of an episode, but, like, item clause. Items are super, super important in Little Cup to where most leagues are limiting the amount of a certain item you can run on a Pokemon, whether it be Eviolite, Berry Juice, your Scarf, whatever it might be. So having a move that removes them from play really, really cuts down the viability on a ton of bonds and how they function well, especially when it comes to defensive pivots and counterplay. And I think we kind of talked about it in the fighting episode. It's why so many fighting types are so good.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, with Eviolite, if with everything getting a 50% boost to their defenses of Eviolite, a lot of them kind of rely on that bulk, and for you to just click one move and remove it, and they become instantly frailer. And with how offensive Little Cup is, not having an Eviolite means you're probably blowing up to most neutral hits unless you're super tanky naturally.
And even then, you don't take the 2-hit KO super effective coverage move they have for you after the knock. So it
For
really,
sure.
like, you have to account for it in the builder. You can't just wing it and hope you can pivot around knock. Because again, it's not like you can like pivot into something that wants to take a knock super easily and then get into your guy. You know, nothing wants to take knock. There's going to be ramifications later.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll touch on this more later with counterplay. The only Pokemon that genuinely wants to switch into knockoff is your sticky hold Pokemon or Tink with Pickpocket. Other than that, that's about it.
Even then, the sticky hold Pokemon are still going to be taking a 97.5 base power dark move. Like, if it's like coming from like a Pawniard or a Scraggy, that's still going to hurt.
Oh
Does
yeah,
knockoff actually boost it if it's not removing the item?
yep.
Yes.
It stays boosting. It
Yep.
never goes
Okay.
down to the 60 base power or whatever it is.
I've
So you
never
have
thought
to
about that
be
before.
bulky enough to take the hit. Yeah, that's why a lot of like Trebishes they run super fast for Pawniard. Because if you don't outspeed it and it like SDs, it might just blow you up. You know,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
it's going
you're
to hurt.
giving it the full power knock. You know, it's better just be faster and drain punch. But yeah.
Tink supremacy.
Yeah, Ticket's like the
King,
one
that's a pretty
Pokemon
good
that.
knockoff Pokemon.
And it
Yeah,
also gets
that
knockoff.
too.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
finally gave it knockoff after that mistake that they had earlier on.
Oh God, that was so sad.
When they had to
I
take
mean,
knockoff away from Tinkatink because we realized at level 5 it technically doesn't learn it before DLC.
yeah, and then DLC fixed it, and we have our glorious Queen Tinkatink.
Yeah, much much better. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of Pokemon that like super super take advantage of it too. And not even just like obviously the first Pokemon we just mentioned, and Tinkatink doesn't get any like insane coverage from it, or at least isn't getting like a crazy stat booster. I mean, it's a strong attack, but
Mhm.
it's mostly like the Pokemon I think of when I think of like the most annoying not guy in general is Grookey. Grookey pisses
True.
me off. That guy is so strong, regardless of whether or not you resist it. When you knock off an Eviolite or you knock off the Berry Juice that was going to be used to pivot into that terrain boosted Wood Hammer, that guy becomes really really obnoxious. I mean, having knockoff plus grass is like almost perfect coverage in Little Cup to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, personally, shout out to episode 1. Fuck Stunky. Oh my God. I hate that Pokemon in Gen 9 so much. Why it is so strong. It is impossible to switch into that knockoff. Even like even if you get Tinkatink, you still have to risk it running like Fire Blast or Temper
It's
Flame.
not going to
It's
Fire Blast will kill you probably, right? If it's Life Orb, I'm pretty sure that just kills you. Unless
Knock into
you're,
It
temper
I
flare
guess you can
can
pickpocket
do a
back. You can
lot.
pickpocket
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, you just pickpocket.
Still,
regardless, Stunky is insane this generation. Okay. Poniard probably still the better knocker, but like Stunky is a close second. That mon is just a bitch. I don't. There's no other way to put it. I hate it so much, but I also love it.
I mean, Suggy was always like a borderline top end, like, great mom. But again, you'd always see it go in like round two-ish before it got that knock buff this gen. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just in concept, that guy with knock is ridiculous. It was already hard to switch into when it was crunching you. It wasn't easy to switch into. Like crunch, sucker, poison move, play rough, fire is perfect coverage. Now you don't get to keep your Eviolite, or you don't get to berry juice back to full and take the fire blast as a steel type. Um,
Yeah.
really, really scary mon.
Yeah.
All right,
And
we
now
need to
they gave
stop
it
talking about
physical
Stunky. We
moves.
already gave it. We gave Stunky too much attention earlier. We need to move on. Next one.
Welcome to SLP
Um,
Stunky's little podcast. This week we're
true,
talking about
True.
true.
Stunky's favorite move, knockoff.
True. I'm here for it. It's like he's a cute guy.
I
But I
mentioned a
think it's
little bit.
also.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
You
go
go.
ahead. No, no, no. Go ahead.
I say. I also just mentioned it earlier. Poniard, another really annoying mon. That's knockoff is so strong. It is basically impossible to switch into that thing.
Very. And I get, like, obviously we have fighting types that resist it, but again, once that fighting switches and takes knock, next time it comes in, like, have fun taking like an Iron Head into Sucker Punch. You probably die with no Eviolite anymore or anything of the sort. Like you might even just die to the Iron Head afterwards. So it really kind of
Yeah.
opens up for itself. And something I wanted to mention too is like not only just like these offensive knock users that are opening up for themselves, but I think like there's also like defensive Pokemon that have a ton of merit in knocking just because it makes the game obnoxious for the opponent. Like a Sandshrew, ground
Yeah.
Sandshrew in particular. Again, another Pokemon that feels impossible to switch into sometimes, not because it like Okos or Tuki as a whole team, but because whatever you're switching into doesn't want to be knocked off ever. Especially with Sandshrew. Like we talked about Sticky Hold being a prominent, way of switching into knock, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later. The monster that come to my mind is I know what do you call it, Trubbish, and then Grimer, yeah, or is it
And
Vulpin
Fellows.
and Shells? So Shells is a mon that can pretty comfortably switch in, but it's also, in my opinion, I don't know. I'm not big on Shells. I think it sucks. The
I'm
other
not
guys
huge on it, but they gave
get
it Stealth
blown
Rock
up.
this gen, so
Oh,
I'm
that
a
does
little
help. That
more on
does
it.
help. But Sandshrew blows up those other guys, and also Tinkatink gets blown up by Sandshrew. So again, not a Pokemon that's like immediately threatening offensively in the sense like, oh no, I lose. Again, it's strong, base 75 special or 75 attack. I've seen SD sets put in work, especially with the spin buff, but typically used as like rocks, knock, spin, EQ. That's really difficult to switch into when you're losing your Eviolite. And the guys that can, keep their Eviolite switching in get blown up by an earthquake.
I love seeing
Yeah,
those
and I
sand
mean,
rush Sandshrews.
Oh,
Manual sand. Or they have a hippo on their team for some
Trust.
reason.
It's good. Hippo's definitely really good. Trust. Definitely
oh,
not
for
terrible.
sure. But on the same wave of utility, we talked about this a bit before the podcast. Snivy as well. And the other one that I've been seeing a lot more of lately, that's been kind of annoying, is Toad School. That is a utility demon.
Oh yeah. Again, maybe it's a mom with like safety goggles so we don't get spored or something of the sorts, right? Because Toadschool's pretty darn bulky with an EVO itself, so it's gonna live a
Mhm.
lot of hits, and spore puts them to sleep, be annoying. Then set up a spike, set up whatever hazard, rapid spin. When you switch into that guy, and it's also not bad offensively. I don't remember who I played with Toad School in what do you call it? Oh my gosh, why am I already blanking on the league name? The one big
Dojo?
little cup league I did, the dojo, yeah. I don't remember. Was it Firefin who had Toad School? I think it
I
might have
can't
been because
remember.
Firefin smoked me twice. Like I lost 3 times all season, including playoffs, and 2 of them were to Firefin. And I remember I had so much trouble switching into Toad School because 50 special attack, but really good coverage, pretty darn fast in base 70, so hitting 17, and it was knocking off all of my checks. Like it was really, really obnoxious to deal with.
Yeah, because I mean, like offensively, grass ground. I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty decent. But even if you want to try and like swap your
That's
flying
not
type
fair,
into it,
yeah.
Yeah, and even if you want to try and like swap your flying type into it, you're gonna risk eating that spore and killing all your momentum. I remember just an example. In a league I was just in, I'm using sticky webs and my spin blocker is Sicilian Zorwa. I brought like I brought safety goggles Sicilian Zorwa just to help against the Toad School. And I was like, even if I get knocked off, that's better than getting spored.
Yeah, 100%. You at least live. You're basically dead if you're asleep.
Yeah, pretty much. Toad School is he's getting up there in really good knockers. I would argue one of the one of the much better ones on the utility side.
Thank God this guy has a terrible ability too.
Also,
Otherwise,
like
it'd be
his
so
ability
insane
sucks, so
poker.
like I don't really care for him being a Sporemon, to be honest.
I will
I
say,
think it just rewards really aggressive play, right? Because it is a mon that's like again
Yeah,
fast, bulky as shit on the spit outside, forces a lot of switches on certain mons, and again if you can punish that and call that aggressive play or call that switch and aggressive play and get that spore off, again, really tough position. I'm like 90% sure it's Firefin who had it and smoked me twice, and it was like one of the big reasons why I super struggled. I think I ended up in the playoff game where I played worse. I had to get rid of. I think I didn't bring my ground that matchup because I was so scared of Toad School, getting free switches and spoiling everything. So I brought like it was like safety goggles Starly or something like that, or sleep talk Starly, and I got smoked by a Blitzel. So
ouch.
terrifying mon.
yeah, and obviously we're not gonna go over it. If you want to hear about why fighting type's good with knockoffs, there's the last video.
Yeah,
But I mean, fighting types are the biggest like group of knockers. They are the most consistent of them. They're
it's
crazy
kind
with
of why
knockoff.
fighting type's the best type. It's just most of them got knockoff.
This
And
is
if you
true.
don't know all about that, yeah, again, go check
Yeah,
out the
I don't
last
know about
one.
that. Just check out the last episode.
Timber Scrafty, send tweet.
The
That's about
only
it.
the only one I want to
Sorry.
mention for that real quick is Brawler. Just an example of how good knockoff was. Brawler went from like an okay fighting type in Gen 8 to like an actually legit threat when it got knockoff in Generation 9. So like knockoff really can carry a Pokemon sometimes. Or at least drastically help them out.
Oh, 100%.
Hear that, Game Freak? Give it to King Gambit.
He's
My
dumb.
boy
He doesn't
needs
need
it.
to be better.
He needs it.
I
Alright.
will say whenever I'm drafting, I try to aim for like I don't know what you guys aim for. I try to aim for like at least like 3 legit knockoff Pokemon.
3?
I think two is a minimum.
I think,
Or
it's like,
two is a sweet spot.
I'm fine with
Okay.
2. If I could get 3,
Mhm.
that's great too, but I am more than
It
okay with
seems
like
like a
2 good
lofty
ones.
goal and expectation. I think it's nice. I would like to,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't say I consistently always get two knockoff or three knockoff guys.
That's fair. I just try to aim for it the best I can, especially because Gen 9 gave a lot of random shit knockoff. Like
Mhm.
Stunky, Meowth, Galar, Crabrawler. At least it's easier to come across knockoff previous than previous gens.
That's fair. Yeah, them. I mean, especially being a TM now is big.
Yeah.
Um, so that's
Yeah.
definitely fair.
The other thing I want to talk about is I don't have an official term for this, but just unreliable knockers or like Pokemon that get knockoff, but they have much better options than running for one reason or another. Um, I think some of the example we're talking about is Ammonite. You're not doing much with it. I mean, you could if you're trying to do like some utility set, but your main role is hazards and shell smashing. You don't have time to try and worry about spreading knockoff. I mean, you could, but it's a
Mhm.
lot harder to do so.
Yeah,
I think a
Ammonite.
mon that is really good but does not use knockoff outside of maybe coverage in like a random matchup is Bulbasaur on Sun. I don't
Yeah.
personally see a lot of knock on that thing ever because either you're
Yeah.
like four attack or you're three attacks with growth, three attacks with sleep powder, or you need that four attacks coverage and maybe you'll see a knock like very specifically for some. Again, I can't even think maybe Bronzor, but you have Weather Ball in the Sun. So like
Have
there
you ever
really
played
isn't any
Blue?
reason to run knockoff. You have limited turns to do Bulbasaur things. Click your stabs and weather ball. You
Yeah,
know.
sweep. Don't sit there and waste the sun.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's
Yeah.
a big one for me. It's a great mon, but like does not use knockoff the best move in the format.
I mean, generally, I think the worst knockers are kind of like just the category of like the fast and frail special attackers like Bulbasaur, Abra, Woobat,
Actually,
Wingull.
I like Abra personally. In very niche specific instances, I'm a big Abra guy. I think that mon's a lot
Yeah,
better than
Abra
some people
knock
give it
isn't
credit for.
bad.
Yeah, like
It's
if
not
you're playing
bad.
into the
It's
Stunky
just
matchup, like if you're playing into the Stunky matchup, and again, this is like considering like Pursuit being banned, whatever, depending on the leaguer. You're playing into like the Grimer matchup, and you're not worried about getting Pursuit trapped because of whatever the rules. I've played in plenty of G leagues like that, especially in Gen 8, where knocking that thing's item will switch in, great, or knocking like a Bronzor switch in, or whatever bulky thing is, because again, you're forcing specific switch ins, and I don't think Abra typically needs all of its move slots in every single game. There's very often where I'm like, okay, my 3 offensive moves do what they need to. I'm slotting on some utility from here. So
That's a fair
I don't know.
point.
Maybe that's just me, but yeah, I've used Knock Abra, but I do agree. Like in general, that fast special attacker with I think the only 2 exceptions I would say are like Abra and like sometimes Weedle.
Hey, Wingull
Yeah,
knock
which
is
I mean,
amazing. I think Wingull loves
Mhm.
knock more than Abra loves knock.
I mean, yeah. Granted, I didn't think about it like that. Of course, there's always going to be cases where you could knock off just that good of a move that there's always going to be matchups. You're like, you know what?
Oh
I'm going
yeah.
to run knock off on
Yeah.
whatever I want.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Grimer matchup is actually really smart. I'm going to steal that.
There you go. You're drafting Abra. That's your first mistake. All right.
You know, I want
Uh,
some Leo.
Heat. Oh god, Abra's so good. Love that guy.
All right.
Abra
So
more like.
now that we've discussed everything about how good knockoff is, how do you beat it?
I mean, we kind of touched on it
Um,
before. It's
yeah.
like the sticky hold guys are one of the
Sticky
main
hold,
ways.
sticky hold, Tinkatink. You can also have Pokemon that are kind of I just say designated knock absorbers, which are no Pokemon likes taking knockoff, but there are ones that take it better than others.
Mhm.
Ones that come to mind is something like Snubble. You resist knockoff and you switch in with Intimidate. So you'll eat the hit fairly comfortably. So and it's kind of not super bulky, but it's like tanky enough with Eviolite. And you can also try and run like thief sets on it as well.
It's tough because I do agree, but yeah, I was gonna say I think Thief is you kind of answered right before I said something, but Thief is kind of the main thing that makes guys like Snubble like a good knock absorber because you're threatening the same thing back and getting utility back. Obviously, that can backfire depending on what pivots in, and if your opponent prepares for that sequence or whatever it may be. But in general, unless you got a Trubbish or a Grimer or a Gulpin, who's another sleeper guy, a Shellos, you don't have a knock switch in Little Cup. And I think one of the best ways of playing around it is trying to position yourself to where they don't get to click it very often,
That is
Or
true.
you have something that is just bulky or something that you're like, okay, I don't need the item on this guy this week. But again, you're still losing an item. It's still a net negative. There is no positive to losing an item, especially in a format like Little Cup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no matter what loses, obviously, no matter whatever loses the item hates it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say like Colbur Berry is also a nice shout out as well for like the bulkier
True.
psychic types
Mm-hmm.
that you're trying to bait them to click knock. You can like
Yeah,
get like a
especially
hard hit
because
off like
especially because Eviolite knockoff into like regular knockoff, like with no item, is like the same damage, super effective wise, right? Opposed to like Colbur, you'll take less like net wise, like
yep,
overall.
and then you're not using like a Violate or a Berry Juice on that mon, so you get to use it on another mon.
Mm-hmm. I've seen Colbur Ponyta a ton.
Oh, Pony
G
G.
Ponyta, G Ponyta.
Yeah, not on
Before
the
we
regular one.
confuse
No.
the two fans.
Hey man, if we're getting confused on that, maybe we need to go watch the intro to Little Cup video first.
I was thinking about it for a second.
Maybe we need to go watch the type chart video. Actually, I'll find a new, but we'll start a new podcast.
Listen, I'm getting old. I'm getting Little Cup dementia. Okay.
I hear punish and I have like war flashbacks.
Yeah. Fuck that mon too.
War flashbacks. Like it's still here, so it's like nothing's changed, man. Nothing's changed. All right.
Yeah, war flashback. Ponyta's not like knocking on our window right now.
Yeah. Bro. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, then once again, it's become the if something has to get knocked, then it has to get knocked. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and you just
I
have to
think it's
like kind of
also
like
important to to like prepare for that though. Like know what these sequences are going in and not just be like, oh shit, nothing can lose an item. I'm screwed.
yeah.
Like I can't let I can't sack the Eviolite on this or I lose to this. I can't sack the berry juice on this or I lose to this. You need to have a plan going in if you have items that cannot be removed before you use them.
Yep.
Something else that I wanted to touch on before we forget is it's not knockoff, but it has the same effect. Corrosive gas, which not a ton of Pokemon use it, but you can justify in stuff like Trubbish or Coughing, who the opponent's not expecting it, and just delete their item.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
especially love
again,
it on coughing because neutralizing gas plus corrosive gas, you take on the sticky hold users and just get rid of the item.
Back in my day of the old War of Galar, we used corrosive gas Stunky and we liked it.
yeah. I mean, Covet, Thief, and again, those moves like Covet and Thief, I think are cool because they are also not counterplay, but also Psuedo-Knock.
Covet Spritzy, my beloved. I say like I like Spritzy at all. I hate
Another
Spritzy.
and that's one of the biggest complaints with Spritzy a lot of the time too, or at least in my opinion too. I've never drafted Spritzy because it's a
Yeah.
Pokemon that, like, if you look at like the calcs, it cannot be knocked off, or it's really bad. But its defensive profile has switching into Mons that are clicking knockoff a lot. So Covet is a cool tech on that. I like that, but it's also tough to fit Covet and be like, I can't be Trick Room now. I can't be Calm Mind. I can't be, like, this sucks.
It's
Yep.
also tough to fit Spritzy on your team in general.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Spritzy is just a hard mon to draft in general.
I'm a Spritzy hater. It's a weird mon too because if you lower it too, this probably isn't the video for this, but it's a weird mon because if you lower it too much too, it's like, oh shit, why the hell is Spritzy down here? But then if it's like up where you think I don't know, it's a weird mon. I think maybe it's just its pricing.
It's super anti-meta, and I love it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
little teaser for a future project. We are looking into doing our own little draft league for this podcast, and we're
Peach's
gonna be
little
trying a lot
league.
of. Yeah, we're gonna be starting we're gonna do a lot of experimental changes. You'll hear more about this in the future. We are looking into lowering Spritzy down to like 12, because no one ever drafts Spritzy at 13
Yeah.
points.
I
No one takes it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm also out of touch. I've played barely any Little Cup this generation, but dude, fuck it, move it down to 11. Like, move it down to where it
Maybe.
gets picked. And again, if it's broken, oh shit, oh no, Spritzy was too cheap by 2 points this time. Let's move it back up next time. There's
Yeah.
no data. There's no data. Nobody drafts it. Everybody thinks it's good, but nobody drafts it. You're right.
The only
Yeah,
person
I
I've
feel
ever
like
really
there's a
seen
lot of
consistently drafted was Darkrai. That was it.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that was way back in the day. Yeah, I've used some Spritzy teams in tours before,
I
or
think
like
like
for either
aggro
playing or
also
like
drafted it a
in
lot.
mocks. Yeah, I hate it. I think it sucks.
Okay. Anyway, we're on a knockoff video. We can't stop hating on
Yeah,
Spritzy
no,
much
no, no,
longer
no.
here.
We're talking about Spritzy. Spritzy hates knockoff. There you go.
Oh,
Got
true,
it.
It all
We're
true.
not
comes
too
together.
far off.
It all comes together.
It
Yeah.
all connects. It's like Scraggy. You're like, you quad resist knock, but you hell is sure do not want to get knocked.
Welcome to Knockoff and Little Cup. Speaking of this video, but yeah, is there any other topics, or I think we covered pretty much everything.
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Knockoff, best move in the game. Nothing wants to switch in. And
This is why Knockoff is the best move in Little Cup. There's your title.
There you go.
YouTube
There's the
took
short.
over.
There's the short. The YouTube short right there.
Big.
And we need to delete Stunky from the game. Alolan Grimer, my
This
beloved.
is why Stunky has to die. Not
Wait a
clickbait.
minute. We spent one episode, 20 minutes talking about how we love Stunky, and now we just go around and say, fuck Stunky, get rid of
You
it.
shoot Stunky with a gun, not clickbait. Oh man, I got it down. I told you, professional YouTuber. I'm giving you guys free game right now.
This is true.
I'm going to punch Stunky through football goalpost, not clickbait. Oh shit.
All right. Well, this was episode 3 of Peach's Little Podcast. Next episode, we'll be going over the LC type chart. So important types you need to draft in Little Cup, and how it differs from standard. And I believe our special guest will be Brett or Brettabus. I don't know what he prefers. Just call him Brett.
The answer.
You'll find out
Dang,
next time.
man.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right. See
OG
y'all.
Albina, for joining us this week.
Yeah, of course. Drop a like on the video, sub to the channel, call to action, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Woo.
thank you
Yeah,
all
thanks for having me.
so much for watching or listening, I guess. Yeah, thank you all so much for listening. We'll catch you all next week. Bye.